Hello and welcome to India Bulletin. I am Manzoor Hassan from J&K and I am today joined with the senior PDP leader Naeem Akhtar Sahab. We'll ask him some questions regarding recent political developments and Article 370 abrogation and the developments followed by that. Hello and welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you.
First, we want to ask you a question about your detention. You were detained immediately after abrogation of Article 370. And there were different, your leaders were detained. What was the experience for last 1 year?
We were detained on the evening of 4th, and when our security that was detailed with me, they came and told me that I should not leave the house. And on 9th of August, I was shifted to the sub-jail, which was the hotel center was converted into a sub-jail, and I was shifted there, and I found many people there already, and many more followed me. So we were there around 40 people from all different parties, different groups, some individuals as well. Mr. Sajad Loon was there, Shah Faisal was there, and many others, our senior leaders, National Conference leader, Mr. Ali Muhammad Sagar, etc. On 17th of November, then we were shifted to another place that was again a sub-jail, which was the MLA hostel converted into a jail facility. And after the expiry of 6 months, I, along with a few others, 5 people others, we were slapped with PSA, Public Safety Act, and then shifted to a sub-jail to a third place. Then I was released officially on 18th of June. But ever since I was released, and the world was informed that we have been released, we were held in detention in our respective homes, which ended only recently. So we spent more than a year, to be exact, 407 days I spent in detention, which we consider illegal, unconstitutional, and against all norms of democracy.
My question is to you is how you secured your release since you were detained under PSA, and there were also some allegations by different parties that you signed the bond which helped you to secure your release.
They had come to me first when I think about a month after my detention. 2 officers came to me who told me that we want to release you. I said, well, I'll be glad to go home, but they said you will have to sign something. I saw that was a bond of silence and almost retirement from politics. I refused. I don't know about many others, but some people have openly said that they had signed that bond. Then in December, again I was contacted, and an officer came to me that we'll be releasing you, but you will have to give up politics. He was very clear. I said, I'm here because I have some conviction. If I abandon that conviction, there's no reason for me to call myself what I am. I'll have no personality then. So I told him that there are thousands of boys, teenagers, who are going into grave and still continue to go into grave in Kashmir. It's a large unfolding tragedy. And if one old man also dies in Indian jail, I will not have any regrets, and I will not even consider it as a sacrifice in a place where fathers are shouldering the janazas and funerals of their children. So after that, then we were shifted to another sub-jail, and there also some people came to me and had a long discussion. And I told them, you have to solve Kashmir problem politically. And even if you reduce it to to the status of a municipality, you will have to secure it. And because we believe, our party believes, our leader believed, Mufti Muhammad said that unless you resolve Jammu and Kashmir politically to the satisfaction of everybody, you will not have peace, and India will not be able to realize its potential. And we believe that the road to peace and prosperity of entire South Asia runs through Kashmir. You solve this problem. We have been telling always for the last 20 years, the government of India, that the Prime Minister of India must assume the role of the SARC, the leadership of the SARC, leadership role of the SARC. And in that paradigm, you can solve Kashmir, and without changing borders, you could. There is already a concept how to do that, and you don't have. It is a win-win situation for everybody, for Kashmir, for Pakistan, for India. But now, unfortunately, the things have, because of this thoughtless action on 5th August last year, things have become more complex. As you see, another party is emerging in Kashmir, on Kashmir. So it's getting more and more complex, more and more difficult. But the only way we still hold is to resolve Kashmir. Unless it's resolved, it's not resolved.
So you said during your detention, there were officials, they approached you and talked about, they wanted you to stay away from politics. So did they give you any offer during that period?
No offer was made. Offer was just to go and stay home. Don't talk to anybody. Don't talk politics. Don't specifically talk about Article 370 or special status of the state. But we believe that it's a constitutional right. It's a constitutional fight. Unfortunately, what the government of India, the BJP government, has done, when the Kashmir problem had actually moved into the purely constitutional domain, constitutional space. What was the fight before 5th August? Kindly don't change the special status of Kashmir. Although it was only a husk now, but it gave a feeling of safety, a feeling of security, a feeling of safeguarding their interests in a large country which is like an ocean, and Kashmir is a small droplet in that. So we had told them, kindly don't do this. But the same government which had for the last 70 years told Kashmiris, don't ask for azadi, ask anything within the constitution. So on 5th of August, what we found out, that suddenly that constitution was taken away. Our own constitution was scrapped. It was kind of a parliament's coup against Jammu and Kashmir. We had a constitution that defined my citizenship. Its first article told me that you are a citizen of India. You have now scrapped that. Where do I stay now? Where do I find myself?
So now many of your party leaders and you yourself, you are not out of detention, out of jail. So, but we are not seeing any major political activities from your party. What's the reason?
Major political activities would mean what, in your sense?
Like there are other parties who are now meeting regularly in national conference. Other parties, some of them, they also started preparing for elections also. What's your party doing now?
Elections are a very distant thought right now, in for other parties. But if you find, our party's pivot is our leader, our president, who continues to be in the jail. She has not been able to meet any of his friends, colleagues, associates in the party for the last 14 months. So that is the fundamental difference, number one. Number two, politics, if you think, is only by holding meetings, public meetings, jalsas, etc., etc. I think this is not the time for that, given the restrictions imposed by the COVID. Not even a huge party like BJP is able to hold a jalsa anywhere in the country. So we have to accept that restriction. Number three, we are out only for less than a fortnight, and we have already held 2 meetings in our office, and we'll be regularly meeting. But those meetings will not mean anything unless our leader is out, because now the Kashmir struggle, its complexion is changed post 5th August. The Gupka Declaration, as you know, it was formulated on the 4th of August 2019. And it called for defending a situation, defending a status of. But now that status is gone. So the nature of our struggle has changed. So who will be now? Farooq Saab has assumed its leadership. Mr. Sajad Lone is there. Other players are there. But PDP, of course, is there. We are perhaps the soul and spirit of this, because we feel that there is no politics in Jammu and Kashmir now except the politics of unity, because there's nothing for two citizens of Jammu and Kashmir, two residents of Jammu and Kashmir to fight about, because there's no power left in the political system that has been given to us. This is like a viceroy system, viceregal system. Governor, lieutenant governor is like a governor general. So all powers are with him. So what is we going to fight over? What am I going to fight with NC or Sajad Lone's party or any other party? Or what have they to gain by fighting me? We have no stakes left in this, in the present situation. Stakes in the traditional sense that I'll become a minister and I'll do this, I'll promise people moon, I'll promise them roads, because that power is not with the politician anymore. It is this has been now designed to be a security cum bureaucratic setup, Jammu and Kashmir.
So after the decision of August 5, 2019 about the abrogation, BJP would always say that two families, the dynastic politics has ruined the Kashmir. Now it's gone. Two families are not there. So now center will rule J&K directly, and the funds and other benefits will reach to people directly. What's your take on that?
You should be telling me about that. Have the funds started reaching people? Number one. Number two, this has been this narrative about every Kashmiri being a thief, including the muftis and Abdullahs, has been promoted, unfortunately, by no less a person than the Honorable Prime Minister. He mentioned Mufti Muhammad Said in his address, muftis and Abdullahs. I know about Mufti Muhammad Said. He was a darwish of politics. He died without leaving anything behind. He had no worldly possessions. Similarly, if you compare the huge sums that you yourself reveal every day from politicians, small time politicians in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, in West Bengal, in UP, in MP, everywhere. It runs into thousands of crores. And Falana, Dimkana, he has this, that. But in Jammu and Kashmir, tell me, you have been in power, direct power, for 2 years. Over 2 years, in June 2019, Government of India took over Jammu and Kashmir. How many Abdullahs and Muftis and Naeem Akhtars have been hanged so far because of their misdoings? You should have done that. Obviously you have not. You have no proofs. So, That is a political narrative that was deliberately spread as a canard. And where has that has disappeared post the 5th August? उसके बाद तो कोई नहीं कहता है. Nobody mentions it even. Because all the Kashmir politicians are not worth even one Vijay Mallya. His frauds in the bank, or your friends, Nirav Modi, other. So, where are those frauds? So, it was basically a special, it was a paint specially made to look everything in Kashmir dark, everything as if Jammu and Kashmir was run by a system that was akin to Taliban in the Afghanistan, as if there was no accountant general. Even that was said during those. We heard those debates in the jail, when people would unabashedly say that there has been no accountant general in Jammu and Kashmir, there is no CAG, there is no overview. When you say that it has been way back in 50s that accountant general has, the financial integration has taken place between the state and the government of India. All frauds, all lies were heaped upon that situation, and there was unfortunately no Kashmiri left out who would have contradicted them.
So you spoke about Mufti Saab. It was Mufti Saab who actually formed the coalition government with BJP. Do you think that decision taken then was wrong?
Now I say it was wrong. But that time it looked like the only possible way out for Kashmir, because we had believed that Mr. Narendra Modi is perhaps in the footsteps of Mr. Vajpayee, because Vajpayee ji had teamed up with Mufti Muhammad Saeed, with the Pakistan president, and they had brought about a very verifiable change on the ground. And it looked that Kashmir problem was going to be solved without any major change in the system, without actually anything happening, but the atmosphere was changed. It was relaxed. People would come, go, cross the LOC, the roads were opening, trade was opening, travel was opening, and Kashmiri people were also seeing a ray of hope after 65 years. But unfortunately, Mr. Narendra Modi's government let us down. They did not implement a single point of the joint agenda of alliance that we had hammered out with them over a period of 2 months. So it is a disappointment now, and Mufti Saab, as is obvious, he had staked his party, his entire political capital for that, what he himself called North Pole and South Pole. We thought it is possible because we thought that the BJP was looking at a broader national interest, not merely on their own survival in the politics.
So do you think that decision brought a bad name to party and you lost the image which you had made over the years?
Obviously, that decision, we regret that decision. BJP is a party that nobody would touch with a barge pole.
So now it has been more than 1 year since that decision. Now, since you are a political party and you refuse to stay away from politics, even if they told you to do that, so what's your now plans regarding Article 370 abrogation? How will you fight that decision?
It is a struggle, and in this struggle, every Kashmiri, and I believe most people in Jammu, will certainly join, because it doesn't hit Kashmir alone. Although it is directed at the Muslim population of the state, let me be very frank and forthright. But unfortunately, it has taken away the rights of our Hindu, our non-Muslim brethren also. Jammu is now suffering because the government of India wants to fix Kashmir, which is a true. First, the demographic change will hit Jammu first, not Kashmir. It has to cross Jammu first. If you see, in next 10 years, I fear that the Dogras of Jammu, the proud Dogras who had founded this state, Jammu and Kashmir state, which had Gilgit, Baltistan, Ladakh, Jammu, Kashmir, and which was a kind of a God's experiment in diversity of all kinds. That was made possible by the Dogras. But that heritage, that was the heritage of Jammu. That heritage has been vandalized, that has been dismembered, destroyed. And Dogras will be the first casualty of that. Mark my words. Jammu will look completely different in next 10 years.
So you talked about...
But we are taking this struggle very seriously because it's an existential threat to us. So that is why everybody in Kashmir who you find worth his salt will support this Gupkar initiative, and how that struggle will be carried out, I can tell you only one thing. It will be democratic, peaceful, constitutional, political. There will be no place for any kind of violence. And I think we have good enough material in our combination, in our this new system, national conference, political conference, communists, our friends in other smaller groups, and the PDP. We have enough brains, enough grey matter to perhaps come up with a good strategy that will help restore some of the dignity of the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
You spoke about the dignity and the identity of Jammu people lost. There were apprehensions in Kashmir also. Some parties believed and they had apprehension that there will be demographic change if Article 370 is abrogated. Now it's abrogated. Now how do you think the things are going on?
That is the only purpose of this. The removal of Article 370 and 35A. That is the only objective. It's not, I say this very plainly, it is a demographic project. There's nothing else in it. And that's why you will have marked how the only achievement this government is updating you about every week is what? How many domicile certificates we have issued. As if Kashmir is only living to have a domicile. Even I have to get a domicile certificate now. Somebody who doesn't belong to the state asks me to have a domicile to prove myself as a Kashmiri. There can't be a greater abuse than this. I have been here for centuries. My history is 5,000 years old. My religion is 1,400 years old. My culture is ancient. So, they can't tell me to establish my residence now. So, it's a large, long battle. We are a very small place. Our numbers are small. But that should give us the strength, because otherwise we'll be drowned in the huge sea of humanity that India is. It is not a country, it's a continent. And in 1947, when our forefathers, my father, my grandfather, decided to throw their lot with the new state, the secular state, which was essentially a Hindu majority state, we did it with some safeguards for our identity, for our culture. What happened actually, what was the immediate import of that decision was that Jammu and Kashmir was 80% Muslim at that time. The Jammu Kashmir, 85%, the combined population of Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, the Pak-administered areas, Gilgit, Baltistan, etc. It was 85% Muslims. And the discourse, the narrative in the country at that time had been for 100 years, since 1857, about the Hindu-Muslim issue. And in that situation, Kashmir decided to go with India, so it needed certain safeguards that your identity as a Muslim state would not be dissolved. It would not be diluted. That is why this was given. But unfortunately, we live in a time now where history is not regarded anything except the breaking news that you people give in the evening and push Kashmiris further away.
So in a way, you are suggesting that Muhammad Ali Jinnah was right when he spoke about two-nation theory during partition.
I am not saying that. The BJP is acknowledging that. BJP is doing exactly the same thing. They decided that 150,000 Buddhists we had in the undivided state who live in Ladakh, 1.5 lakh people. They cannot live with Kashmiris, who are 75 lakh people. So you are extend that argument to Kashmir versus the rest of the country. We are not even 1% of this country's population. So this is what BJP has brought us to. This is what RSS has brought us to. It doesn't matter whether I say that or not, but you have demonstrated that Buddhists can't live with you, Dogras can't live with you, you are all alone and we must overwhelm you. But in that overwhelming of Kashmiri Muslims, the Muslims in Jammu and Kashmir, in your attempt to overwhelm them, you are also hitting at the interests of the Hindus, of our Dogra brothers and sisters in Jammu. And of, as you are seeing in Ladakh, what is happening in Ladakh? The same problem. The Kargil, the majority of Ladakh, for your viewers, still is Muslim. It's a Muslim majority area. But over the decades, for a purpose, for a strategic purpose, it was projected as a land of lamas, as if nobody else lived there. So what's happening there? Kargil is saying that we'll go with Kashmir. Ladakhis, the others, the Buddhists, they say you are overwhelming us. Give us the same securities and safeguards which were available to us under 370. This experiment of Jammu and Kashmir within the Indian Federation was in fact actually, in my opinion, it was a model for rest of the country, for entire India. All the states should have been given these powers which Jammu and Kashmir enjoyed. That we have concurrent powers also with the government of India, we share it with them. This will ultimately be needed for a country of India's size. Now you are deciding who should be, in Delhi you are deciding how many ventilators Karnataka should have. Why should a Delhi Babu boss over a Babu in Karnataka? Does he know more? Which road under this Narega should be taken up in Kupwara? How does a Delhi man know that? So you have to, someday I hope when this country starts thinking rationally, they will see some merit in what Jammu and Kashmir had come up with, and our forefathers, the founders of the country, the founders of the constitution had come up with in Jammu and Kashmir. I think someday there will be a debate on that. Why don't you extend it to other states?
So there was one argument by Government of India then after that decision of abrogation of special status that there were no protests, there was no killing, and there was no major dissent against that. What do you think about that?
If you arrest 10,000 people, take them to jails all over the country, and then post a policeman outside every home in Kashmir, do you think a protest is possible? They should not take it as an agreement. this silence is, in my opinion, very humble opinion, a lull before the storm.
Recently, in an interview, one of the senior leaders and your colleague in Gupkal declaration, Farooq Abdullah Saab, spoke extensively about different issues post abrogation of Article 370. He also spoke about thing that Kashmiri people will be happy to live with China than India. What does he mean by that, and how will you react to that?
It is an expression that Farooq Saab actually, in my opinion, tried to convey the distance that you have created between Kashmir and rest of the country. If our physical distance is 1,200 kilometers between Delhi and Kashmir, I think emotionally we are 1,000,000 miles away from the rest of from even Jammu, from Pathankot. So that's that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.